simpler and more meaningful way. All you need is a coach, or even just a book, to teach you the rules and some basic tactics. I will be your coach. I will show you how. For reasons of time, this is seldom what I actually say in the classroom. But in a book, there's room to stretch out a little more. I hope to back up the grand claims I just made by showing you that the problems we think about every day, problems of politics, of medicine, of commerce, of theology, are shot through with mathematics. Understanding this gives you access to insights accessible by no other means. Even if I did give my student the full inspirational speech, she might, if she is really sharp, remain unconvinced. That sounds good, Professor, she'll say, but it's pretty abstract. You say that with mathematics at your disposal, you can get things right you'd otherwise get wrong. But what kind of things? Give me an actual example. And at that point, I would tell her the story of Abraham Wald and the missing bullet holes. Abraham Wald and the missing bullet holes. This story, like many World War II stories, starts with the Nazis hounding a Jew out of Europe and ends with the Nazis regretting it. Abraham Wald was born in 1902 in what was then the city of Klausenburg in what was then the Austro-Hungarian Empire. By the time Wald was a teenager, one World War was in the books and his hometown had become Cluj, Romania. He was the grandson of a rabbi and the son of a kosher baker, but the younger Wald was a mathematician almost from the start. His talent for the subject was quickly recognized, and he was admitted to study mathematics at the University of Vienna, where he was drawn to subjects abstract and recondite even by the standards of pure mathematics, set theory, and metric spaces. But when Wald's studies were completed, it was the mid-1930s, Austria was deep in economic distress, and there was no possibility that a foreigner could be hired as a professor in Vienna. Wald was rescued by a job offer from Oscar Morgenstern. Morgenstern would later immigrate to the United States and help invent game theory, but in 1933, he was the director of the Austrian Institute for Economic Research, and he hired Wald at a small salary to do mathematical odd jobs. That turned out to be a good move for Wald. His experience in economics got him a fellowship offer at the Coles Commission, an economic institute then located in Colorado Springs. Despite the ever-worsening political situation, Wald was reluctant to take a step that would lead him away from pure mathematics for good. But then the Nazis conquered Austria, making Wald's decision substantially easier. After just a few months in Colorado, he was offered a professorship of statistics at Columbia. He packed up once again and moved to New York. And that was where he fought the war. The Statistical Research Group, or SRG, where Wald spent much of World War II, was a classified program that yoked the assembled might of American statisticians to the war effort. Something like the Manhattan Project, except the weapons being developed were equations, not explosives. And the SRG was actually in Manhattan, at 401 West 118th Street in Morningside Heights, just a block away from Columbia University. The building now houses Columbia faculty apartments and some doctor's offices, but in 1943 it was the buzzing, sparking nerve center of wartime math. At the Applied Mathematics Group Columbia, dozens of young women bent over Marchant desktop calculators were calculating formulas for the optimal curve a fighter should trace out through the air in order to keep an enemy plane in its gun sights. In another apartment, a team of researchers from Princeton was developing protocols for strategic bombing, and Columbia's wing of the atom bomb project was right next door. But the SRG was the most high-powered and ultimately the most influential of any of these groups. The atmosphere combined the intellectual openness and intensity of an academic department with the shared sense of purpose that comes only with high stakes. When we made recommendations, W. Allen Wallace, the director, wrote, frequently things happened. Fighter planes entered combat with their machine guns loaded according to Jack Wolfowitz's recommendations about mixing types of ammunition, and maybe the pilots came back or maybe they didn't. Navy planes launched rockets whose propellants had been accepted by Abe Gershik's sampling inspection plans, and maybe the rockets exploded and destroyed our own planes and pilots, or maybe they destroyed the target. The mathematical talent on hand was equal to the gravity of the task. In Wallace's words, the SRG was the most extraordinary group of statisticians ever organized, taking into account both number and quality. Frederick Mosteller, who would later found Harvard's statistics department, was there. So was Leonard Jimmy Savage, the pioneer of decision theory and great advocate of the field that came to be called Bayesian statistics.